All right, this is 7.8. You can go ahead and do this warm up on your own. You have to just multiply both equations because you can't turn a 3 into a 2 or a 2 into a 3. So you're just going to have to multiply both of them to make one of the variables match. All right, we are going to graph systems of linear inequalities. We've already graphed linear inequalities, just one of them. So the basis of this we already know. What we have to do now is we have to graph two of them on the same graph. And so it can get a little messy because if you remember systems of linear inequalities, we had to do dotted lines or solid lines, and then we had to shade in the graph. So now we're going to have two of those on the same grid. So we just have to be a little particular about how we do things to make sure that it's neat enough that we can tell exactly what we're looking for. So we used to graph just two lines. When we started all this, we graphed two lines to find their intersection point. This is the same idea. But now instead of just a one point where they intersect, they're going to have an entire region that's shaded of our graph. Like a whole chunk of the graph that overlaps because we've got all those shaded parts. So what you're going to do is you're going to put it into slope-intercept form, which is y equals mx plus b. So you're going to make sure that each one has the y by itself. And then it says to shade the first inequality, remember if your line is solid or dotted. So remember it's solid if you have a line, so greater than or equal to or less than or equal to. If that solid line is underneath, then your line is solid. Dotted if there is no line underneath. And then you're going to shade, and it says using vertical lines only. Now, I'm not super particular about that, but like the vertical part doesn't really matter. But what I want you to do is I want you to make sure you just stripe it, because then you're going to come in with the other line and you're going to stripe the other line in a different direction so that you can see where they overlap with the crisscross. Okay, so that's why it says vertical lines. Basically just stripe it. And then graph the second one, same thing, but use horizontal lines, and then that way they're going to checker area where they overlap. And then you're going to shade that in more once you know where it is. So we'll start with this one. This first one is already ready to graph because the y is by itself. So the slope is a -1 over 1 because there's a -1 in front of that x, and my starting point is 0, 1. So I come over to my graph. I go up 1 on the y-axis, and then a -1 over 1 slope tells me to go down 1, right 1. And I'm going to put as many points as I can fit on the graph. And then the opposite of down 1, right 1 is up 1, left 1. Now, be careful, before you just connect them really quickly, we need to know if it's dotted or solid. This first one does not have a line underneath the inequality, so it's going to be dotted. And it's less than, so we're going to be shading below. Okay, those are the things we need to know, dotted and below. So Notability has a dotted line if you want to use it. Just go ahead and connect your points and make your line. And then we said it was less than, so we are shading below. Now this is where instead of just coloring like a maniac, I'm just going to stripe it. Okay, so that it's not just all colored in. I'm just going to get a nice striped area. You just have to be neat because these can get a little messy, so take your time. And now we can go and do the other one. So that one's done, just leave it there. This one, the y is by itself. Our slope is 2 over 1, and we're starting at 0, 3. This tells me there is a line underneath, which means it's going to be solid. And it is also less than, which will also be below. So it's everything I need to know. So I'm going to start at 0, 3. And then the slope is 2 over 1, so I'm going to go up 2, right 1. And then the opposite of up 2, right 1 is down 2, left 1. And we said it was solid because there was a line underneath. So I'm just going to, go ahead and connect it. And below, be careful because for this one, below is different. So remember, if you're walking on it, the hill you'd walk up is the top, the above. So we're going to color kind of down and to the right of this line, okay? I'm going to stripe it horizontally, and I'm going to just focus on my red line. I'm ignoring anything that's purple. That doesn't matter to me right now. I'm going to graph this red line like it's the only thing on the graph, and I'm ignoring anything purple. Okay, so I'm just striping this one. Going right over top of the purple because it doesn't matter. I just need to go from the red line over as far as I can until I'm off my graph. Now I can see where they overlap. In the middle, see there's this checkered part down here. That's where they overlap. So that's the part I'm going to color in a different color because that's my actual answer, because that's where they are the same. And then that's it. I'm going to skip this one, and then I'm going to do this one. They take a while, so I'm only going to do one more. All right, so for this first one, you have to get the y by itself, so we're going to subtract the x. So that gives us 2y is greater than or equal to negative x minus 2. Divide by 2. You're dividing, so you stop. We are dividing by a positive, so you do not have to switch anything, so keep it greater than or equal to. This is a negative 1 over 2, so negative 1/2 x minus 2 divided by 2 is 1. So our slope is negative 1/2, and our starting point is 0, negative 1. It is going to be solid because of the line, and above because this one is greater than. So start at negative 1. And then a negative 1/2 slope tells you to go down 1, right 2. The opposite of that is up 1, left 2. And it is solid because of the line underneath, so go ahead and connect them. And above, so above is going to be up here. I got impatient. Okay. Then we're going to do the second one, which is also not ready to graph. So we're going to subtract the x. That leaves us with a negative 1y is greater than negative x plus 1. We're dividing by a negative 1 to get y by itself. Now you're dividing, so you stop. We're dividing by a negative, so you have to flip the direction of your inequality and make it less than. And then a negative 1 over negative 1 is a positive 1, x minus 1, because 1 divided by negative 1 is negative 1. So our slope is 1 over 1, and we're starting at 0, negative 1. This is going to be dotted and below. So negative 1 is my starting point, so actually it's the same starting point. And then up 1, right 1. Dotted. And below, which is going to be down and to the right this time. Take it from the red over, ignore the purple completely. Doesn't matter what that's doing right now. I just need to be shaded underneath the red line. And then I can clearly see that this part in the middle, or off to the right I mean, is overlapping. That's where they both are. So that's the actual answer that I get to shade in more. And then that's it. So just be careful. There's A lot going on, so just try to be as neat as possible. And that is all. 7-8.